Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And you're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station. AM 1050 FM 106.5 and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Tiki Live, Rumble, Audible, Amazon Music, GeoSon, Podchaser, and the list gets longer and my memory gets shorter, but you all know you can find me everywhere. So why would you want to tune into the show? Well, because we are in our 558th consecutive week, believe it or not. Thank you for that thumbs up. Someone just gave me a finger on the stream. And I know that you are all able now to come and play with me in the morning, every 8 a.m. weekday mornings, because this is a show about more hope and happiness. No gossip, no scandal, and no K words. Hello, Donna Feldman. This is a show where I want you not to focus on other people's reality show, but your own. So my topics and guests are to that end. If you missed my fabulous big brother, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who came on, I think, for the 5th time, Layla Ali for the 2nd time, wonderful friend. I love the way my guests almost always turn out to be friends afterwards. So exciting to have new co-hosts this last year. We added on Sam Works with Straight Talk on Thursday. We have our dream interpretation coming up with Julie Lohr once a month. We have my newest co-host, Yorona Bostard, coming on to talk about life and love and loss. And then exciting news Fridays, I'm going to have the daughter of the fabulous founder of The Temptations, Otis Williams' daughter, Alon Carter Price. She'll be joining me starting this Friday as my co-host. So lots of fun things. So keep it tuned here. You can free subscribe at my YouTube channel so you can watch and listen instead of on all the other channels, which is pretty much audio. So I am delighted today to have a guest who is going to add to your understanding of your life and hopefully add more hope and happiness to it. So have you ever had a supernatural experience? Well, my special guest today has had that not once, but 3 times and maybe more. And she is award-winning author Theresa Crater. She is here live in studio to encourage us all to connect to energies that are not scary, but actually accessible to us all to enhance our lives. She was born in Northern California. She grew up during the Civil Rights Movement, an experience that taught her anything is possible. She studied Vedic philosophy and taught meditation since 1975, as well as in-depth the various forms of shamanism, Western metaphysics, and became a Reiki Master. A best-selling and award-winning author, Theresa brings ancient temples, lost civilizations, and secret societies back in life in her visionary fiction. She has 9 novels out at present, plus a handful of short stories. She lives in Boulder County with Egyptologist, writer, and tour guide Stephen Mailer, who co-founded Chematology with Indigenous wisdom keeper Abdel Hakim Awan. I practice this. I don't know if I got it right, but at present, Theresa and Stephen have one feline overlord. Please welcome to the studio, Theresa Crater. Hello, Theresa. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. And we get to spend this next hour finding out more about all of those things. But before we get started, I'd like to do an abbreviated breakfast with you. I start all of my shows. You're getting a hello to Theresa from Donna Feldman as well. And
Hey, Donna.
a quick peace hit and peace out to the sponsor of this show as well, Karen Stuth with Satyama Publishing. And we'll talk more about her work and how you can help yourself with some publishing. So we'll come back to that in a little bit later. Remind me. But I wanted to give her a quick shout out first. So what happens right now, and Donna, you can play along as well, is usually when we wake up in the morning, we're not necessarily in the best frame. Or actually, when we wake up, we're probably instantly okay. But if you start the morning like a lot of people and pick this up and start scrolling, you hear all of the things that are not good. So I like to start the morning with my guests by taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. So what are some specific things that you are grateful for this morning? And the only rule is it has to be specific. So you can't say my friends and family because that's like too broad. So let's do that and then go through a few appreciations, which is the bottom of the bun. And appreciations are different than gratitudes. I say gratitudes are outside of yourself. And appreciations are things that you like about yourself. And I'm putting Theresa on the spot. I did not prepare her for this, but I asked her right before in the green room, would you like to play along? And she said, absolutely. So here we go. I am grateful that I get to have guests on who I learn from, things that I'm not normally exposed to, which is probably why this is show 850 something, because I like to learn something new every day. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Great.
What are you grateful for?
I am grateful that it is going to be 50 degrees in Colorado today and the snow is going to melt and my cats will be one cat at this point, will be very happy about that. She's bored out of her skull.
Oh, so. Great. A cat that likes snow. All right. I am grateful that I have a special place in my heart for Colorado because that's where I got my national bestseller list of number 4 in Denver Post. So I'm grateful for that.
Great.
Go ahead.
I am grateful for being able to come on here and talk about this. And I'm grateful that Karen decided she wanted to publish this book.
Fantastic. And we're going to end with Donna's. Theresa's influence in my life, her example of acceptance of all people. How beautiful is that? Oh, I love compliments. Let me just mark that one.
Jump off that exhaust.
I like to award compliments, and that's a beautiful compliment, and it qualifies as a gratitude as well. So thank you very much to Donna Feldman for that. Now, we're going to go to the bottom of the bun. And the reason why I ask people to do appreciations is because I don't know about you, Theresa. I grew up being told, don't be full of yourself. Don't toot your own horn.
Yeah.
Don't like yourself too much. We don't want to, puff ourselves up. In fact, in Chinese and Japanese, there's a saying, the nail that stands up is hammered down. So talk about zero motivation for saying what's good about yourself. But I've noticed that because of that influence, we tend to look for love in all the wrong places. And we spend our time with our antennas up going, who likes me? And with social media, that's literally right. So I think it's important at the end of the day, before you go to bed, instead of thinking about all the things you didn't do right or all the things you didn't finish or who done me wrong, instead force yourself to exercise the muscle of self-love and self-soothing. So what do you like about yourself, Donna and Theresa? I'll start. I appreciate that I am creative. And
Right.
I love being inspired or in the flow of the creative thought that is always around me. I just have to be open to it. So that's my appreciation. And we'll do one from you.
Okay. I appreciate that I am persistent, that I have persisted in learning to write. I think well at this point. See, there that little thing, don't say too much good about yourself, comes in. And I was persistent in self-healing. When things came up, I didn't know sometimes what to do with it, but I found out and I persisted even when it was difficult.
Beautiful. And I appreciate that I love I love making up my own style. You know, I've been called a fashionista, but I love that I can, you know, I don't have to go to see what's the color of the season or, you know, what's in or whatever. I just do what I want, and then sometimes it's fun to see if it catches on. Last one for you.
I appreciate that well, this is outside of myself. I appreciate that I love my children, my great grandchildren. I actually have 6 great grandchildren, and I appreciate that I can participate and learn from them and see,
Mm, beautiful.
their joy inspires me.
Beautiful. And Donna's going to finish us off. She appreciates her persistence of starlight. So that is beautiful. That might also be another compliment. Well, we'll use it as something. If you can see starlight, Donna, you are starlight. I learned that in Morocco. Actually, I complimented this woman and I said, "You're beautiful," in Morocco. And she said, "It takes beauty to see beauty."
Mm,
And I went, "Oh, I like that."
that's
So,
nice.
so yes, kudos to all of us. And thank you for having breakfast with Donna and I and Theresa this morning for taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. And one more affirmation. As you can tell, I love it. And that's why I do that. I think it's a wonderful thing. I almost sometimes wish I could walk through my day with that applause button. Because it just puts a smile on my face. All right, let's move into the topic at hand. I see more eyeballs rolling in, which tells me that people are streaming so they can watch and listen and chat. So thank you for joining Theresa Crater and I. We're going to be talking about supernatural experiences. I know those of you who are, oh no, woo-woo stuff. I don't always, I keep it real, but the reality is woo-woo is not out of this world, is actually in this world with us. So today we are going to focus on that. But Theresa, tell me, when you were a kid, did you think that you would be doing and writing and saying what you are?
No, and I did tell my mother I was going to be a writer. And
Okay.
she thought that I said I was going to be a rider, Rider. So she said, Teresa, you can't make a living doing that. Which in fact sometimes is true of many
True.
writers as well. But I didn't think that, one of the threads through the book is this wasn't on my map of possibilities. I keep saying, when I would have an experience and I would think, this was not on my map of possibilities. This is not something that I was taught was possible that humans could have. Or we get taught, particularly I think in Western culture, that well, you must be crazy, because that's like, how can we, that's out there, we don't know what that is, that's not possible, so you're crazy. And in fact, it is crazy to think that we are limited to these experiences that the culture lays out as normal. I think supernatural is what is natural for humans. And for many historical reasons, we've gotten narrowed down, So I never thought I would write this way or have these experiences, even though I was born into a psychic family. My mother was psychic, and but it was a secret. Don't tell daddy, you know.
Mm,
So
interesting. Now let's define psychic for anyone who has avoided anything woo woo, or just so we're on the same page when we talk about psychic, supernatural. So, how would you define a psychic? What does a psychic do? She was born a psychic. Is it an ability that you're born with? It helped me with that.
I think it's an ability that you're born with. Being psychic simply means being able to perceive things that might happen in the future, to hear that this extra information comes in through our five senses. So sometimes people who are empathic, generally it's through the sense of touch. Although it doesn't have to be physical touch, there's a sense of, you walk into a room, you can feel the energy, you can feel what people are feeling. I used to have so much fun in front of my college class, finally getting tired of somebody's energy thoughts coming at me, and I would just turn and say what they were thinking, and they would go, oh. Oops. But so that's what I think psychic is. It's just being able to access more information from the environment than we're
the
taught
five
that we should
traditional
be
ones.
able to think.
Yeah. More than what is maybe empirically proven through
Right.
the science of the five senses that are measurable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you think you inherited your psychic abilities from your mom?
Yeah, I did. I did some of it. But I think through meditation that it grows. Our natural abilities, our inherent abilities will unfold and blossom with
Mhm.
meditation.
Mhm. I've expanded my definition of creativity through my life, so that we used to say creative people are the artists, the musicians, and that's kind of it, or acting. But I have now realized, I believe that everyone has the ability to be an artist in some way, shape, and form, because it is something that is accessible and strengthened, as you say, through practice. Would you say the same thing about psychic ability?
Yes, everybody has it. We just get taught, to not pay attention to it, to suppress it. Everyone has that, some way of knowing something that you can't quite explain how, or reading a room in a way that you can't really say why, what to say to people, to help them. I think it's a natural ability.
Mhm. I would agree with you. I'm a reluctant woo woo. I've had so many supernatural things happen, and people will say, they read my energy, or they call me a healer, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then at that very moment, my hand will go to an area on their body that is in pain, and
Mhm.
they'll feel the warmth. And that used to freak me out, because I'm like, I didn't sign up for this, and I didn't want to be seen as weird. And I think that's one of the biggest blocks to everyone's ability to access that part of ourselves, because we're afraid or we're embarrassed. And so we have to get over that. I think.
Yes, I think so. I think we're making great progress doing that too. I think that since when I was born, we've really expanded and grown, and spiritual development is much more accessible and accepted.
Yes, I actually credit Oprah, my honorable moniker. I am called Asian Oprah. I was actually introduced to Oprah as the Asian Oprah. And that's an
Nice.
honor for me by Michael Bernard Beckwith. It's an honor for me because I credit her with, starting that whole opening into spirituality in mainstream on TV.
She did. She has done a lot. Very
Right?
much.
So
Yes.
it really, I think it's wonderful you're right. Like we can talk about this stuff and it be still a little weird, but not like super weird, right?
Right.
Tiny bit weird. So tell me about so you didn't think you were, but you knew that you were a little psychic. What was probably the first thing that happened to you? Maybe it was your first awakening, that you went, okay, this is something I have to do instead of being an accountant or a teacher or whatever the career was, because you have, 9 books, takes a little time. Your awakenings take a little time. Reiki Master, that's working with energy. So tell me about that. What was the first major, like, okay, something's going on?
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you two things. One is a really small thing that happened when I was a kid. And then I'll tell you about the first awakening that I talk about in the book.
Sure.
My mother accepted that I had this gift. And so she worked at Montaldo's. I don't know. I think it's not around anymore, but it was a kind of a high-end clothes store. And I went to the fashion show, right? I was
Mhm.
just a kid, maybe in early teens, maybe. And I, as soon as we all got a raffle ticket, and as soon as I touched the raffle ticket, I knew it was a winning ticket. And so I went to my mother and told her, I said, I'm going to win. But, you work for this store and I'm not supposed to win because, I'm your daughter and you work here. It's supposed to go to the people who, pay for these tickets. And she just said, keep it. and so, and so when they called the number, I didn't even look at it. I just stood up and walked to her
Wow.
and handed her the ticket. And then for a split second, I thought, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? But she read it and I got a free outfit, that day.
Wow. How old were you?
I don't, probably maybe 11. I don't know. Something like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's pretty early. And then you went and bought a lotto ticket and you've been rolling in money
I
since.
wish. Wouldn't that be nice? That's the thing about these things, the personal will does not actually make it happen.
Okay. So that's an important point. So the access to this supernatural or the knowing or extrasensory information, can you ask for it? Can you invite it in? Can you set it up?
Well, I think you can. Again, I think it's through meditation. And that was the second major experience that I had. It was both learning meditation and then sitting in front of the major meditation teacher who was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I learned TM. I went to a lecture to hear about this meditation because a friend of mine had decided to do it and she liked it. And she said, you should just go to the lecture. And I listened to the guy and he said, how many of you have friends who are meditating? And we all raised our hand. A lot of people raised their hand. He said, how many of you were told, don't listen to anything he says, just start? And a lot of people raised their hands. But I was sitting there listening. I really didn't quite get it all, but I had this very deep, deep knowing that I should do this. It was just like this, this is what you need to do. And so I started meditating. My partner at the time was a woman. I'm bisexual. And we had the TM Center in our house in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was raised in North Carolina. And we decided to finish college first and then go and become teachers. But when we got to the teacher training course, we were told, that we had a special thing that we had to do. We had to separate. We had to be on 2 separate courses because we were lesbians.
Okay.
And I thought, and we didn't want to do that. And they said, well, the only other option is that you have to leave. And so this started quite a long, about, I would say, a year or a year and a half struggle to be accepted by the TM movement as a potential teacher.
Wow. So let me get this straight. And for those of you who just tuned in, I see more eyeballs. I just want to introduce you to my guest today. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And my very special guest this morning is author, writer, and energy expert, I'll say, Theresa Crater. And she's talking about how she kind of came to what she's doing now. And this is an interesting part. When I read it in the bio, you hear of discrimination in the LGBTQA plus community, but a TM meditation movement, which you would assume would be inclusive and spiritual, and you were discriminated, and you were told you could not be a teacher, a meditation teacher, because you were lesbian at the time.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So
that's right. And this is the early 70s. So,
okay.
But not that that's like an excuse, but I mean, that was the reality at that time. And this is true of a lot, this was true of a lot of places. You could get fired, you could this and that. So we struggled with it. And I was able to go and work in Europe on the advanced courses, the advanced meditation courses. And some of the women on the course managed for me to get a private interview with Marissa to ask him to send me to teacher training, because I had completed the first half and I wanted to go to the second half and then become a teacher. I felt like I was being told, look, you can either eat or breathe, but you have to make a choice.
Wow.
And I thought, I don't know how to do that. So I got in to see Marissa. I'm sitting in front of him. I told him the situation, as briefly as I could. And he said, oh, just talk to the the course leaders, just talk to them. They'll straighten it out. Well, no, they're not going to straighten it out. I knew they weren't. And because I had been talking to them for a long time. And so I had this realization that he wasn't going to fix it for me. He wasn't going to say yes. And I just, at that moment, I just surrendered. I just gave up. I gave up trying to have it, to push. I gave up any effort. I gave up any trying to make it work. And I just thought, Marissa has these all-seeing eyes. When I see him on tape, he just, there's a wisdom, and I want to just look up at and look into his eyes. And I looked into his eyes, and there was something that happened between us. There's this, he looked at me, he saw all the way to the bottom of my consciousness. He saw the universal consciousness that was underlying my individual mind.
Wow.
All that struggle, all that pain, all that anger, all that sadness, it just melted away. And when he saw my universal self, I experienced it. It was like I just fell into it. I fell into this infinite consciousness where everything is perfectly aligned, all the questions are answered, all the pain is resolved. Everything, I looked at him and I started laughing, and he started laughing too, because it was ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous. Here I was coming to try to become this infinite being through meditating and becoming a TM teacher. And I already was that.
Wow.
And in fact, if I hadn't already been this infinite being, I wouldn't have even been able to think about becoming one.
Wow.
If that makes any sense.
It totally makes sense.
And so I just laughed, and I thought, okay, I should ask him what's going to happen when I forget this, because I probably am going to forget this. It's like I'll fall out of this consciousness. I don't know that it will stay forever. Although, don't we wish? This is what we
Yes.
wish. This
Yes.
is what everybody wishes, even if we don't know about it. And so, but I realized that it really didn't matter if I became a TM teacher. It didn't matter if I became enlightened in this lifetime. It didn't matter, because I already was this infinite consciousness, and nothing can happen to that.
Wow. I've got like, I'm buzzing and I have like energy going right now. I don't know if you can feel it from me.
Yeah,
Like
a little
my
bit.
fingers are vibrating. Do you see any color around me at all?
I'm not a color person.
Okay.
I don't see that.
Okay. So because I've been told like I have a lot of yellow, gold, pink, and fuchsia.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
and
Yes.
some purple. Pardon?
That's nice. That's purple, is that spiritual awareness. And
Yeah.
a lot of that yellow and gold is communicating it.
Yes. Yeah. So I kind of am doing what I'm supposed to be doing,
You
right?
definitely are.
There's a book called On This Day, On Your Birthday, and it's the day that you're born. And August 10th is the day I was born. I'm not telling you the year because I'm ageless. But
Yay.
yes, I'm a Leo in 5 planets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the day that I was born, it's called the Day of the Velvet Voice. Now, what are the chances? So one of the things that I've learned is that when I am in line or aligned with that energetic, I call him my UPS man, my universal power source.
Oh, I love that.
He delivers every day when I pray and meditate.
Yes.
And so every day is like multitudes of what caught moments, WATCOT. What are the chances of that?
Yes.
Like things like what? And a lot of people, you're thinking of someone and the phone rings and it's them, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Or you look at the clock and it's 111 or 1111 or 222 or 444, or a UPS truck will go by when I need a confirmation.
You need a reminder of that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
all of that, and I'm saying that to, again, this is not out of the realm of anybody's life experience. And that when we're open and allow this, it's incredible. I've been on this let's go up kick, Michelle Obama, stay high. I'm like, let's go up, UP, unlimited possibilities. Let's go up.
That's great. Yes.
So great. So, okay. So now you saw into how did you say it? The infinite nature or infinite consciousness that is you, that everyone has as part of them. So I want to just highlight what you said there, because I think that is tremendously fundamental for a happy life. Yes. Because if you don't remember who you really are at the core of who you are, then you will be upset and buffeted and saddened and depressed and anxious and worried, because you're living at that bobbing on the winds and storms of life level.
Yes. That's true. And, sometimes you can't get 100% there, but that's what meditation is. You find a meditation that works for you, that really speaks to you. And I think meditation techniques are like radio stations. Remember the old days with the, you tune it, and the different frequencies were there, that they're all being broadcast on different frequencies. And so you find the frequency that works for you. And then, you just are persistent. Go ahead, you meditate once, twice a day, whatever. If you don't get into that infinite consciousness consciously that day, you are moving toward it. And as you're moving toward it, the roadblocks to it get resolved, get cleared away. So the next day you're a little clearer. The next month you're a little clearer. The next decade you're a little clearer. You know, when I first started meditating, I thought, well, I'll be enlightened by the time I'm 40 at least. You know, I think I underestimated my karma or my difficulty. I don't know what. But anyway, I'm certainly way clearer than I was. And, you know, so and my life is better. My mind is clearer. We get more creative. I started making straight A's as soon as I started meditating.
Interesting.
I was in college. It was like, wow. It's like, and my curiosity got turned on. You know, we're healthier. Even when I've been overweight, and I'm losing weight right now. But anyway, cholesterol. It's a cholesterol thing. I'm not, you know, I don't care about the rest of it. But, you know, I'll go into the doctor's office and, oh, you must have high blood pressure. No, I don't, because I meditate, you know, less stress, we're healthier, etc. And we help the environment. We help the world.
Okay. So if anyone has had a meditation on their New Year's resolution list, this is one of the great reasons for the timing of this particular show, because if you've wanted to know how or what it is or how to do it yourself, and you know, we've got a meditation teacher and expert, Theresa Crater, here today. Crater, sorry, I look at that name and I want to say Carter, but it is Crater.
That's right.
So for people who've never meditated before, for people who want to know how to meditate, what would you say the best starting point is?
I would go to a presentation about meditation. Go and hear like an introductory talk about meditation. It's good to have someone else to bounce off. And because when you sit to meditate, you're going to have a whole bunch of different experiences every day. It'll be slightly different. And then you can have somebody to go and say, okay, well, this happened, and so it's obviously not working. And they'll say, well, that's normal. You know, like the most important, one of the things is, oh, I can't make my mind be quiet. I can't stop thinking. Well, guess what? Nobody can. And so, you know, what the trick is, you know, what do? It's only when you realize, oh, I'm off on thoughts. You think, okay, fine. You pick up, you go back to your focus, whatever your meditation is, mantra, breath, whatever. So I would, that would be the first thing I would do. Or maybe go to the store. You know, you're in LA, right? Yeah. Isn't the Lotus? What's the name of that store? That wonderful bookstore you guys have?
I think it closed, actually.
Oh, did it? That's sad. I'm sure there's another one though.
I know which one you're talking about, but I guess a Bodhi tree.
Oh yeah, it was. Yes.
Let me see if it's still open.
Just peruse the shelf about meditation books and see what attracts you.
Temporarily closed. Yeah, that's it. But I'll give you another, if you're in Northern California, because the one down here also closed where I did my book launch, is Fern's Garden, is a beautiful store that used to be down here. Nice. Yeah, but there is one up in Berkeley. So go to that one, or any store that has, you know, wonderful sayings, or like an artist's store, or crafts, anything like that.
There'll be some kind of a bookshelf, you know, big section. In Boulder, you go to the Boulder bookstore and the whole top floor is like, you know, meditation, Buddhists. I mean, we have everybody here.
Tattered Covers is another great bookstore.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A beautiful engraved bookmark, as I did my book signing there.
Oh, so that's nice.
It's another beautiful store. So that's an interesting one that I've never heard, which is You can meditate by getting lost in, like looking at things. That's like because you're not focused on your thoughts.
I wouldn't call that a meditation. What do you,
Oh,
you
okay.
mean? Like, maybe I'm confused.
Oh,
What are
I
we
thought you
talking
said
about?
another way to meditate is to go to a bookstore like that and sort of look at all that.
I wouldn't call that a meditation. I would
Okay.
call that a finding your technique.
Okay.
So
Okay. So to
whatever it
explore
takes.
different ways to meditate.
Right.
So there's no one way to meditate. I know that, there's lots of places where it's expensive to learn how to meditate and get your
Yes.
own mantra and all of that. And I did that.
Yes.
And you don't have to do that. I don't want to I don't want to malign them, but for me, meditation is as simple as just closing my eyes, listening to a steady noise like the hum of a fridge or the air
Mm.
conditioning. That's from Esther Hicks, Law of Attraction. That's her advice on how to, get out of the no thinking. For me, meditation is just no thought.
Yeah.
So not
I mean, it's
thinking
nice
about
when you
anything.
get there.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, sometimes you'll have an intrusive thought and you think, oh, let me listen to this hum again. That's, it's that simple.
It's that simple. Thank you for highlighting that. It is that simple. All right. Now, I want to go back to that moment with your teacher where you looked in his eyes, he looked into the bottom of your soul, some would say, into your
Yeah.
soul, and saw the magnificent person that you really are underneath, right? The that whole consciousness. When you said that, I immediately thought of this moment that I had with one of my teachers, and I'm uploading it now just so you can. Do you see that?
Yes, that's beautiful. Is that Michael Beckwith?
It is.
He's
And this,
wonderful.
yes, he is. And here's the weird thing is, I'm always taking pictures. People like tease me all the time because I'm always on my phone and I'm always capturing stuff. I had no idea this picture was being taken. I did not stage it. I did not ask for it. And someone got this shot, and it was right. It was the opening of his mom's bookstore, Alice's Quiet Mind bookstore at Agape. And
Oh,
he said
nice.
to me, can I look into you? And I'm like, well, okay, but what the heck is that? And so he did that, and he just looked into me, and I felt that moment of, like you said, he sees you for who you really are, all the way to the bottom of my soul. And in that moment, and what I was going through at that moment was a horrific, expensive divorce that I was paying for because I picked a man who didn't like to work. 2 traffic accidents in like less than 2 months.
Wow.
Drinking like out of control, just trying to drown out. Coming out of that, I was newly sober, but it was like that moment of all of that doesn't even matter anymore.
Right.
So I had that moment that
Yes.
and I got chills when you were describing it. And
Yes.
that is so accessible to everyone. If we just are quiet enough to realize that we don't have to live in the buffeting drama that is our lives. I am
Yes.
drama, therefore I am. Sorry.
Right. No, you're fine. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, it's very true. And that level of awareness is in every body. It's in everything. In physics, they talk about it as the quantum state. This is the level of potential energy and intelligence from which everything manifests. So this is the nature of the universe. This is the intelligence, the universal mind, so to speak. And it's in everything. It's everywhere. So it's, there's nothing unique about it. In fact, I think that this living in this enlightenment is our birthright. This is how humans are supposed to be. But we're living in a difficult time.
Yeah.
We're living in a transitional time. We're also living in a time when this knowledge has been lost and suppressed, and it just needs to come back.
Absolutely. Your book, we're at our last 10 minutes and we haven't talked about your book because it always goes way fast. I love
We have
getting
talked about my book. This is in my book.
Yeah. Oh, good.
This
So
whole experience with
three
Marissa.
awakenings.
Yeah.
Three awakenings. We talked about the first one? Was that the first
That was
awakening?
with Marissa.
Yes.
And then the second one came in 1997 when I was in Hawaii. I had just left a shamanic group because of, how I call it primate politics.
I call it peripherally located egos.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We get caught up in all this, and I just couldn't find my way out of that. And so I just left the group and I went to Hawaii, to see as an opening to spirit, like, okay, what's next? And Pele, of course, as soon as my foot touched the ground, Pele welcomed me. But there was a crystal skull coming to this ashram that I was staying at. And this was a place that had a room, an altar for all the traditions. Every tradition was represented there. And so this crystal skull was coming and my friend who I had met there said, look, you should come. This is really an amazing thing. And I'm like, crystals, what? What's a crystal? What are you talking about? All right, I trust you. I'll go. So I went to this meditation with Joanne Parks, and the crystal skull was sitting there, this little lump, and she had a scarf over him. And so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, okay. And she takes the scarf off. It was like, okay, this is like a magician thing, right? And so she's talking about her experience, how she came to be the guardian of Max, the crystal skull, and her daughter being sick, etc. And so I'm listening and I'm enjoying, and I decided I'm going to meditate. And so I just kind of sank in. And the skull sitting in the front, and in the middle of a circle. And all of a sudden, there's this little stream of energy that comes from the skull. And it's like, knock, knock. And I'm like, yes. Who's
there?
And he says, it was like he was asking permission to connect to me. And so when I said yes, he took that little stream of energy and he turned it up like a fire hose, and he just blasted me. And I got blasted into that state of consciousness again. And I was so grateful. I sat there and cried for the rest of Joanne's talk. Poor Joanne. She came and patted me on the head, but I didn't want to turn it off. Or repress that feeling, because I didn't want to lose the connection. And I think that's another way we lose our connection, is by suppressing. Oh, I can't behave this way in public, and I'm sure maybe some people didn't want me to behave that way in public. I was crying as quietly as possible, but I was just so grateful. And it was, again, just exactly the same way that everything melted away, all the problems, all the concerns, all the, And Max said to me, he said, you can't take a picture of me. And I thought, okay, why not? He said, because the next time it will come to you from somewhere else. And you can't get attached to my form. My form is not what's important. It's that level of consciousness. So you, Theresa, cannot take a picture of me. And the next time I saw him, he came to Boulder. As soon as I got home, I knew I needed to move to Boulder. I moved to Boulder. As soon as I unpacked, I read the New Age magazine, newspaper. Max is coming to town. I was like, oh, good. And my guide said, but you're not going to have the same experience this time. I said, okay.
Why?
I don't know. You have to talk to them about
Okay.
it.
Will do.
But what happened was I met my husband. I met Stephen. And I used to ask Max questions, and he was like, "Just no, you can't ask me a question. Be quiet. We're meditating together. You're past question asking. You know that it's about consciousness." So he wouldn't tell me who's your relationship, whatever. Just be quiet. Shh. Put your head down here and meditate with me. But as soon as we were in the group, Steve went and sat in front of Max, and Max looked at me, and he said, "Will this one do?" And I said, I don't know. I'll check it out, you know. And Steve and I he's an Egyptologist. I need to be quiet. I need to tell you about the third one. But anyway.
Oh, actually, you don't, because we want to leave something for people to get to read.
Right.
And in that vein, I'm going to share with you where you can get the book. The publisher, Satyama Publishing. I'm going to just share the website here, and I believe that your book is right here on the top page. 3 Awakenings, the spiritual memoir, book version and print version. And thanks to the generosity of our sponsor, Satyama Publishing, 3 books are being given away today. So I want to make sure that we give Karen a shout out. There's also on that site, I believe, if it's still there, maybe not, Meditate. There is a yes, it is. I'm actually on this page. There's a meditation right here. Dr. Marissa's meditation. Michael has one here. Ram Dass has one here. So those are free for you to enjoy. So please go to satyama.com so that you can get both free meditations and, most importantly, Theresa's book, Awakening. The first 3 to go to drmarissa.life. You could just Google me and scroll to the bottom and put your name in there. And in the subject line, put Awakening. Then I will send you a free copy, the download copy of Theresa's book, Awakening, for the first 3 as my Asian Oprah giveaway. No, thank you. And thanks to Satyama and Karen for offering that as the Asian Oprah giveaway today. So it is a book that, will help not only normalize or accept, that self-acceptance of that access, the energetic access, this otherworldly heaven on earth, as I call it. I believe that we have the ability to access heaven on earth when we realize that we're not our circumstances. And I think Theresa's done an amazing job capturing that. That's her life work, is to capture those things, share them with all of us so that we can begin to enjoy that access to.
Thanks. Yes.
Absolutely. Last word, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
I think I'll just give you a teaser about the third one. The third Awakening happened in 2021, I think, at an ancient Cathar site in the Mary Magdalene land. And I was on a Mary Magdalene tour with Kathleen McGowan, and she wrote the foreword to the book. And I was standing in a tower, a 14th century tower, and it just rose up. So it's everywhere.
It is. And you don't have to go far away places. Sometimes during meditation, I'll have that moment where I am so, I'm very emotional, like you said, and I'll feel it, and it'll just be the most beautiful feeling. This is the energy that made sure that every drop of water, every grain of sand, every leaf on a tree is different. That's energy. That's the energy that we're made of. Yes. So all 7.3 billion of us, or 5 billion of us, are uniquely one of a kind, wonderful. And that's my final word. Thank you so much, Theresa Crater, for coming on the show. Thank you to Satyama Publishing for being a sponsor. If you'd like to be a sponsor on this show and you'd like to be a guest, then please do contact me at drmarissa.life. This is all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Now go forth and have the best day ever. See you tomorrow.